Hello and welcome. Today we are going to look at the Sharper Image GPS video hover drone with advanced flight technology. This is a GPS quadcopter that has 720p Wi-Fi FPV streaming. It has altitude hold, headless mode, return to home, and all the features that you would expect from a quadcopter like this. Now the drone comes in this large rectangular black box. Right here it says advanced flight technology, and here you could see the quadcopter. It says GPS there. It is a pretty large drone, and it's from Sharper Image. Here on the side of the box you could see it flying by a mountain, and here at the top you get another view of it with the transmitter, and it's from Sharper Image. And here on the box everything is laid out and you get kind of a bottom view of it. Now remember, the propellers on this are inverted, so they're actually at the bottom of the quadcopter. And here you could see all the features and a description of everything. So let's open her up here on the side. Let's turn it around here and pull out the styrofoam where all the items are contained. So let's pull that out. There we go. Let's set it right here on top of the box. And this basically has everything. We got a manual also right inside the box. And let's take a closer look. So here we have the manual, like a brochure that unfolds. You can see all the features. Here we have a pretty big battery here. It's a 7.4 volt 2600 milliamp LiPo battery. It's pretty common, it's not proprietary. Here is the balance charger. Here's the actual plug for the balance charger. It's in US. And here's the actual balance charger. Now you could upgrade and buy a hobby grade one that's 20 watts, but this one here does the job and is adequate. Right here we have the landing legs that you do have to screw in and install, and they are pretty large there. We have the propeller guards that you also have to screw in, so there's 4 of them there. And here is the cell phone mount that you put on the transmitter. You also have to assemble that and screw it in. Here's a little bag with some screws and a little plastic connector for the landing legs. Here's a 1-800 card in case there's any technical issues. Here are spare propellers, and they're pretty large propellers there. We'll put that right here. And in this bag here we have kind of like the rubbery dampers and like a gimbal clip here that you can snap in to hold the camera. Here's the actual 720p camera, and it streams in Wi-Fi. It does not take any SD card. All the recording streams to your phone, so the quality is not as good. But yep, that's the camera. Here's the actual drone. Pretty interesting looking. As you can see, the propellers are inverted. They're at the bottom of the quadcopter. So we'll take a closer look at that later. And down here is the transmitter. Pretty interesting transmitter here. It has all the basic controls and antenna and so on. So we'll take a closer look at that in just a bit. So here's everything from the box. So let's take a closer look at the drone here. Here's everything when it's all set up and installed. And we have it all turned on here. And so let's take a closer look at this drone. It is pretty large. As you can see, the camera and gimbal are set up there. Now, this camera has to be manually tilted. It does not allow tilting remotely from the controller, and as you can see, it plugs into the power source right up there on the quadcopter to power it on each time you turn on the quadcopter. And there's an on-off switch. And there are the landing legs with the kind of foamy, rubbery stoppers there at the bottom. And these are brushed motors, and they are inverted, as you can see. So everything goes at the bottom of the quadcopter, so they spin in opposite directions to a conventional drone. And here at the top you could see the GPS antenna. I'm not sure if that's for aesthetic purposes or that's the actual antenna, but that's the antenna. Here it says sharper image at the front. Very aerodynamic, plenty of lights there for orientation. You could see lights on the bottom and in the back and in the front. So pretty good with orientation and lights there. So very sharp looking, very interesting design taken by Sharper Image on this quadcopter, and just a neat overall look. So, and you can mount a GoPro on this, and there's a screw to put in the battery. I'll show you real quick. If you unscrew that, here's where the battery plugs in. So it has a standard connector there. You just snap it in, and the flight time is about 8 to 10 minutes, and with this balanced charger it takes about maybe close to 2 hours to charge, but you can get a hobby grade charger and charge it in less time. But neat setup there. Like I mentioned before, you can put a GoPro on this. You just open the little holder there for the camera and just snap in a GoPro. And so that's that. Now here's the transmitter with the mobile device clip already attached. And here you have your throttle stick, your rudder stick, your headless mode button, your on-off switch, your auto takeoff and auto land buttons. Then you also have your high and low speed rate button. And then you have your return to home and your cancel return to home buttons. Now all the other buttons on here are for aesthetic purposes. They actually don't press in. They're just hard molded on there. And there's no flip button or anything like that. And here we have the mobile device clip installed and screwed in right here on top on the antenna. And that's essentially it. That's all the assembly required here. And the control does take 4 AA batteries as shown right here. And then you put the backing back on. And that's essentially it. This transmitter provides a 700-foot range of control. And so now we're going to set up for a first flight. Once you have the batteries in, the first step is to turn on the quadcopter through the on-off switch right there under the quadcopter. And then you turn on the transmitter right there. And once they're both on, you'll see some blinking, and you'll have to bind it by putting the throttle up and down. And you will hear a beep. And at that point, you should see a steady blink, and you've got to first calibrate the gyros by putting the throttle stick to the upper left and the rudder stick to the lower right. You'll see a quick set of blinks. Now we're going to calibrate the GPS compass by putting the rudder to the upper right and the throttle to the lower left. Once you see the blinks, you've got to rotate the quadcopter clockwise on its horizontal axis for like 3 spins. And then you've got to rotate the quadcopter on its vertical axis while it's facing downward for another 3 to 5 spins. And then you should notice the rapid blinking slow down, and then at that point you just got to wait for GPS lock. While we wait for GPS lock, we're going to connect to the Wi-Fi here. It's shown there as Wi-Fi 720p. There's no default password or anything, so you connect to that. And then you have to launch this app, the 360 Flight GPS. And once you launch that, there's an icon there you have to tap. And right away you should notice an FPV stream, Wi-Fi FPV stream. Now the range of this Wi-Fi FPV stream is about 200 feet or so. So not as far as the control range, but adequate. And here's the app. It's very feature rich. We're just going to go over the basics here. You have all your telemetry such as speed, GPS lock, battery, voltage. You have a little settings icon on the upper right that you could set a bunch of parameters and things for waypoints. Here you have waypoint mode and orbit mode. If you do orbit mode, you could have it rotate around you. If you have it in GPS mode, you can, in waypoint mode, you can set waypoints. Here are the virtual controls if you want to control it through the app. Then here on the left, you have your auto takeoff, auto land, and return to home, and motor lock buttons. And you have a picture-in-picture view there of the FPV display or a map. And right here on the right is where you can actually draw waypoints. And it'll change into orbiting options there if you switch to orbit mode. So that's essentially it for the app. We're going to take it up for a little flight and have a look at its performance.
This is a home beat.